Savvy Central Radio, drawing out the best from our guests, with host Christina Nichman.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Savvy Central Radio. This is your host, Christina Nichman. Each week on Savvy, we host successful individuals and business owners, inviting them to share their dreams, stories, wisdom, and lessons learned in their field of business. Our guest today is Cindy Battino, life coach, energy worker, separation divorce specialist, dancer, personal trainer, speaker, author. Life changer are just a few words to describe Cindy. Cindy founded Transformational Healing and relocated her practice to Middleburg, Virginia in 2011. Today, Cindy joins us to discuss her new book, You Were in Love Once Upon a Time, Choosing Peace, Not War for a Happier Ever After, a Healthy Divorce Workbook. To find out more about Cindy and her work, go to transform-heal.com. Hi, Cynthia. Welcome to Savvy Central Radio. How are you?
I'm good, Christina. How are you?
I'm glad you're here today, and I'm doing awesome. I really loved your new book, and that's why you're out here today to share with our audience more about your journey, because they might have missed our first interview together, and to tell them about your new book, You Were in Love Once Upon a Time. And it's interesting. It's a book on divorce, but it's very unique. I mean, I've not read a lot of books on divorce because I've not gone through it. But as a child of divorce, it was really awesome to see everyone's perspective in that arena of divorce. And I think there's a lot of myths around it. And I'm hoping that we can get through them today. And anyone listening in, going through it, could be helped from your advice and then checking out your new book. So tell us a little bit about everything.
Well, I decided to write the book, You Were in Love Once Upon a Time, for a number of reasons. The first was my divorce. And I was with my ex for 25 years. We were married for 23 years. And when we decided to divorce, we made a commitment to each other and set an intention to put the children first and to honor everything that we had experienced in the 25 years we were together. I mean, there were, some bad times, but there were also some really great times. So we really tried to do divorce in a healthier way and set that intention in the onset.
Mm-hmm.
And I really got tired of people looking at me like I had three heads when I would talk about, how we would do holidays or how we would do the kids' birthdays, we even gone on vacation together being divorced. And in my opinion, this should be the norm. It shouldn't be the oddity. And so I really wanted to write a book to help people get to this place of a potentially healthy divorce for themselves as well as their kids.
Mm.
So that was really my biggest impetus for writing the book, but also because I'm a life coach and energy worker, I work with a lot of people going through separation and divorce. I interviewed 20 of the top divorce attorneys in the Washington, D.C. metro area who willingly, they spent hours with me. These are people that make anywhere from $400 to $800+ an hour, and they willingly shared all their knowledge and experience and tips, and their tips are actually in this book. So there's lots of really great tips to help people who are going through the process from these people who will see hundreds, if not thousands, of divorces in their professional career. Luckily and hopefully, we won't see any, or we might see one or two in our lifetime. So, and then finally, my biggest impetus in writing this book is the children. And I did a survey on SurveyMonkey for children going through divorce, and it went viral across the country, Christina. I sent it out to like 20 people, put it on Facebook, and it literally went to thousands of people. And the responses broke my heart. The children are so horribly affected in contentious divorce that 10, 20, even 30 years later, they're struggling.
Mm.
They haven't forgotten. It's affecting their relationships. And it doesn't need to happen that way, Christina. It doesn't. I can't get rid of the messiness of divorce. Divorce is messy.
Mm-hmm.
But traumatizing the children and the trauma that we incur ourselves, the cost, the time, it all doesn't have to be as long and as torturous and as horrible as it is, especially for the kids.
Mm. What I pulled from your book and what I found very inspiring is I've had a number of friends going through divorce, and they want to be, well, they don't think of themselves as the victim, but they act like the victim, and they want to kind of stay in that victim mode. I'm the one who's right. Just agree with me, please. He's the bad guy, or she's the bad girl, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they want you to take a side. And what I loved about your story is that there doesn't have to be a side. You both made mistakes. You're human. It isn't working right now. Let's go through this positive way for the kids. And it was great to see a positive role model that this can be done well and without the least amount of harm to everyone involved.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Anyone who's listening, my divorce was messy, and I made mistakes. My kids filled out the survey, and they ripped me new ones, man. They told me everything I did wrong. So I certainly wasn't perfect. And we were all going to behave badly, but one of the places that we get stuck is really in the blame game. Yeah. And when we don't take self-responsibility for the negative patterns that we've contributed to the relationship, not only does it put us in victim mode and make us have a right and a wrong, a good and a bad, which certainly isn't helpful for anyone, especially the children, but it also then means that the next relationship we get into, we're going to do the exact same things that brought us to that other place to begin with. And that's why second divorce rates of second marriages is like 65 plus. Divorce rates of third marriage is 75% plus. There's an anonymous quote I use all the time. It says, if you take the bricks from your last relationship and bring them to your new relationship, you'll build the same house. So when we get stuck in these places of victimization and blame, and when we feel like we've been abandoned, betrayed, and we have all this rage and anger, and we want a vengeance, and we want to hurt, and we want a right and a wrong and a good and a bad, when we get stuck in those places, we end up creating this really contentious situation, and we end up hurting our children, we end up hurting ourselves, we end up hurting our families. We end up spending way too much money on divorce attorneys. And then we go into the next relationship and we screw up again. It's really sad.
Very sad. Now, why do you think so many folks fail to have a healthy divorce? I mean, I've heard so many horror stories. Why is that?
Well, again, I think that divorce is messy. We can't get around the messy. And right now we have divorces filled with drama, trauma, destruction. And people make a couple of very strategic mistakes in divorce. So if you're listening and you're considering divorce, you're going through divorce, please, please, please listen. The first strategic decision that needs to be made is who you hire for a divorce attorney. You know, do you hire a great attorney? Do you hire somebody who does it part-time? Do you hire the one you like, or do you hire one who's going to be your revenge? Or do you hire someone who's going to help you get through the process that will be able to work with the personalities of your soon-to-be ex? Because all of our stuff gets brought to the surface. So if your soon-to-be ex, your spouse, doesn't want the divorce and is a procrastinator, you're going to need an attorney that's going to help you work with someone who's a procrastinator. If your ex was a bully, then you're going to need to find someone that's going to be able to work with bullies, because most likely they'll hire a bully. So that's the first strategic decision that's usually really messed up. And then the second strategic decision that is really messed up by people is they don't get the appropriate support that they need, the professional support that they need for the emotional journey of divorce. And so they rely on their friends and their families for their emotional support because they don't want to spend any more money. And what that does is our friends and our family, they want to take sides. You know, they want a right and a wrong. They want a good and a bad. And they actually fuel the drama and the trauma. They relive their divorces through you. They tell you all these horrible things that your spouse probably did that probably didn't do. And they're probably the worst people that you should go to for your emotional support because they're not objective. They're not professionals in the field, and they know nothing about divorce.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what these people do, and if you're listening, please don't do this. They hire the one person they really need, which is the divorce attorney. And then they're so scared about money. This is something that we've talked about. We have, drama, trauma, victimization, rejection, betrayal. We have anger, rage, bitterness, disappointment. So we have this soup of divorce that sounds really kind of murky. And then we throw the eye of newt in just to make it truly toxic. And that's terror around money. Mm. And people, they go in and they have to give their attorney a retainer. And the retainers, let me tell you, they're not cheap, Christina. Divorce is not cheap. And so around here, I'm in Virginia, Washington, D.C. metro area. A retainer can cost you anywhere from $2,500 to $25,000. Oh my.
Wow.
And then they look at their attorney and they say, okay, so I'm going to get the greatest attorney because I really want somebody at my back that's going to be really good and is going to get me what I deserve. Good. Okay, right. For that, I'm going to pay top dollar. Okay, right, fine. But now tell me, how much is this divorce going to cost me, sir? Mm. And they'll say, I don't know.
Depends.
It all depends. And then I say, well, sir, how much, or ma'am, I'm sorry. There are lots of great female divorce attorneys out there too. What is my financial statement going to look like after divorce? And they're like, I don't know. It depends. Mm-hmm. Right? And so now you have this huge fear built in around how long this is going to take, how much money is going to be spent. And you don't want to give anything away. You don't want to give your spouse anything, especially if they wanted the divorce. Mm. And if I give you a little, then I might have to give you a lot. And so all this terror around money comes in, and they end up with their divorce attorney as their sole professional, objective person to take them on this journey. Mm. So what happens is they end up spending $400 plus an hour for when they get upset at their ex because there was a nasty voicemail that was left, or they refused to let you see the kids that weekend because they had the flu. And so now you're upset because you think your spouse is trying to keep the kids from you. So you call your attorney. Everything is call the attorney. Mm. The money management, the dismantling of your financial world is done by the attorney. When there are financial people who specialize in working with people going through divorce that are far cheaper than your divorce attorney. They go to them for all emotional crisis regarding the divorce, when a therapist or a life coach that specializes in working with people going through divorce are a lot cheaper mm-hmm. than the divorce attorney.
Yeah.
So they end up creating their worst nightmare, which is a long, contentious, expensive divorce. Mm. Makes me kooky. It makes me kooky in the head, Christina.
I saw a lot of good advice in there. That was one of them. Another one I really liked because it made sense to me growing up from a child of divorce. And that was, don't use your kids as your therapist. And whereas both of my parents were really awesome about not talking badly about the other person, being very careful not to have fights in front of us for the most part.
That's good.
But they used us for emotional support. I'm going through this and this happened and I can't pay the bills. And I'm like, what can we do to help? And it's like, it leaves you really stressed because you're in a position where you're in a no help zone. You don't have the money. You don't have the emotional know-how of how to even give them the support they need.
Yeah. I mean, children, what people have to remember, there are a couple of things people need to remember. One is it's a complete loss model for children. Mm-hmm. They're losing their family, their traditions, their house, probably, their bed, maybe, their school, maybe, their friends. And they're losing the feeling of safety that comes with a family unit. Mm. So they're in a complete loss model, and they have no control. They can't look at their parents and go, you can't divorce. They have no control over what's happening. And so people have to really remember that. And as an adult and as a parent of children, as you're going through divorce, you have to remember that if you're scared, they're 100 times more scared. If you're worried, they're 100 times more worried. If you're angry, they're 100 times more angry. Mm. And to have compassion for them. And the best thing that you can do for children is to keep them insulated from your divorce, from your emotional journey of divorce, from the ugliness of divorce. There are 3 things children need to know. And this actually came from a fabulous book and from the survey that I did. There's a book by Ed Farber, and it's called Raising the Kids You Love with the Ex You Hate. Fabulous book. It can be found on Amazon. And you're welcome, Ed. Dr. Farber, actually. And he makes it very clear, and the survey results made it very clear. Kids need to only know 3 things about the divorce. They need to know it's not their fault. They need to know their mother loves them. They need to know their father loves them. And they need to know they're going to be okay. That's it. They don't need to know if mom screwed around or dad screwed around. They don't need to know that you don't like, their father or mother. They don't need to know any of that stuff. They don't need to know how they weren't a good spouse to you. Yeah. Kids don't see their parents as friends or or social beings or sexual beings. Or, even now, I'm 52 years old, Christina. I think of my parents having sex and it makes me want to vomit.
Right.
So our kids don't need to know that stuff. They don't need to know what their mom or their dad did wrong in divorce. They just need to know they're going to be okay. They need to know it wasn't their fault. And they need to know that they have 2 parents that love them more than anything in the world. And that's all they need to know. They certainly don't need to be put in the middle. You don't give them the check to give to the other parent. You don't complain. You don't yell and scream in front of them. You don't say bad things about the other parent. That only harms them. It really, truly harms them on a very deep core level. So if you're listening and you've already done any of those things, apologize and change your behavior from now on. You can't fix what's done. If you're just starting the process, make sure you have a place where you can vent, a professional place. Make sure that you're with a therapist, or you're with a family therapist, or you're with a life coach that specializes in divorce. Make sure you have a safe place to vent your feelings, because it's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel like you were rejected. It's okay to feel like you were abandoned. It's okay to have anger. But it's how you express it and where you express it that makes all the difference in the world, especially to the children. Especially. They're not your friend.
That you mentioned it many, many times, and I couldn't agree more. I have a good friend that I introduced you to, Jennifer, and she's a mediator, a divorce mediator. Very fascinating, because I didn't even know those existed. And how cool it was that she told me that when she gets 2 contentious people in the room who are going through divorce, she stops, says, okay, just stop. She tells them to take out a picture and puts a picture in front of each of them of their children. Said, This is what you're going to focus on. You're going to look at this, and if at this moment you're too upset to say nice stuff in front, to your ex, tell me and I'll tell them until you can get more comfortable. And she works it out until they can finally start talking to each other like human beings. But she puts the children in front of them so you can say, this is the focus. This is who you love. Regardless of what happened to each other and the bad stuff that you're going through right now and all this anger and hurt, just focus on your children.
Yeah, they do that a lot with collaborative law as well. So, there are a number of different types of ways that you can divorce, and collaborative is really good about, that's one thing that is really positive about collaborative divorce, in my opinion, is they really try to help people stay with their eye on the goal, and the goal being a healthy family before, during, and after divorce.
Yeah, and you had mentioned several different ways that there's the court attorneys. How do they call them? The
litigators.
Litigators, yes, the litigating attorneys. And those would, people think sometimes, oh, it's great, let's just take this puppy straight to court and I'll get everything I want. Bad idea. Why?
Really bad idea. Well, first of all, let's talk about that a second, Christina. So you have litigators, you have mediators, and you have collaborative law. So there are litigators who mediate. There are mediators who litigate. Collaborative just does pretty much collaborative. And there are some mediators who also do collaborative law. But just because you hire a litigator, right, does not mean you're going to go to court. 90% of divorces are settled outside of court. It might be the day before they go to court, but 90% of divorce cases are settled outside of court. So why would you hire a litigator? Well, remember I said one of the strategic decisions that you make is who you hire as an attorney, a divorce attorney. If you know that your spouse plays really nicely in the sandbox, if you know that they really have that higher intention to make sure the family is going to be okay during and after divorce. If you know they've never lied on their taxes, if they've always been, up and up in all of their business dealings and in working with people, then mediation and collaborative are really good places to go. And they're good people to hire. But if you have someone who's a bully, if you have someone who is really super angry about this divorce, if you have someone who does not want to look for a fair settlement, if you have someone who is seeking revenge, then, even if you want to play nicely in the sandbox, you have to be prepared for how they're going to respond through this process. And that's when you hire a litigator. I mean, if you hire someone whose happy place is the courtroom and just in case, but the worst thing that you can do is go to court. And truly the reason why is because, well, first, it's super expensive. I mean, you're looking at a minimum of 50 grand from each side, Christina. It is super expensive to take a divorce to court. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is when you hire a litigator and you decide you're going to take the divorce to the courtroom in front of a judge, it is your attorney's job to make you look great and make your spouse look like the worst thing that exists on this earth. And the opposition has the same goal. Their goal is to make their client look like the best thing, and you look like the lowest scum of the earth. And let me tell you, people do not forget what is said in that courtroom. And people do not forget how they were painted by their spouse's attorney. Then that means by their spouse, right? And how can you co-parent after that?
Yeah.
How can you look at that person and feel good about that person when they said such horrible things? They brought all your dirty laundry out for everybody to see. And Christina, we all have dirty laundry.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
We all do. I mean, I shook my baby once. Thank God nothing ever happened. But my child wouldn't stop screaming for hours and hours and hours on end. I'm sorry. I will admit I have had a drink and I have gotten behind the wheel. I mean, I have not always strapped my children into the cars, not car seats. I have that, but I mean, into the little grocery carts and whatever. I mean, my husband didn't do that once, and his son fell head first on the ground. I mean,
wow.
Stuff. We're imperfect. I think I say one of subchapters is anyone can look bad to a judge.
Yes. Yes. And I know even became the second parent when my parents divorced, and
oh God.
Yeah. And I'm 13. So I definitely didn't make a lot of good decisions. But I mean, I used to come to work early in my 20s because my brother and sister were still rather young, and tell them some of the things I did raising, quote unquote, my sister and brother. And they're like, oh my God, how are you not put with child, protective services? But not that I did it on purpose. It's just that you make mistakes, and there's no real, I mean, there are a lot of books on parenting, but you learn as you go.
Yeah. There's so many reasons, but those are the two big reasons why you don't want to go to court. A, it's so expensive. And B, you never really recover. And it's very difficult if you do have children to co-parent after that. Because let me tell you, if you have children, you're going to still, even though you're divorcing that person, they're there with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I don't think they're not. Yeah.
No, they're still there. So how you treat them during this process is going to make a huge difference in how you're able to co-parent. And how you're able to co-parent makes a huge difference in how healthy or unhealthy your children are after divorce.
So this brings us to a really good question, and we talked prior to the interview about it. Let's talk money. You talked about the contentiousness of money and what it does in the divorce proceedings, and I told you a little bit about my experiences being a child of divorce. Why is it so contentious, this particular aspect, and why do people are pushed to their absolute worst behavior when it comes to money?
Christina, I think that, if you'll excuse me, that's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
There is such a fear of not having enough. And there's such an entitlement around, I made it, so I don't have to give it.
Yeah.
So even though, let's say, for me, I was a stay-at-home mom. I always worked part-time, but I was a stay-at-home mom. We had an agreement that my ex-husband would be the earner, the provider, and my responsibility was taking care of the children, the house, the animals, the activities, the food, the grocery, all that stuff, right? So even though there was that agreement, when you go to divorce, there is this entitlement that comes from the provider that says, but I worked my butt off to make all this money. I worked my butt off to give us this house and to give you a nice life so you've benefited enough from me. I don't need to give you any more. If it's about child support, what I see happens is what you and I talked about is if there's child support, which there usually is, there is no control over the person who is giving the money as to how the money is spent. And so there's always this fear and this anger that it's not being spent right. So money is just the eye of newt of divorce. It really is. And the whole goal for alimony, and you and I talked about this because there are a lot of myths around what alimony is supposed to do. So alimony is supposed to take a person who is like me, like a stay-at-home mom, and that alimony is supposed to provide me with time and money to get my education up to par, get my skills up to par, and get my salary up to par so that I can make my own living and have a semi-same lifestyle as I maybe had married, or at least have enough money to have a fairly comfortable lifestyle. That's what alimony is supposed to do.
Yeah.
So it's not about
just taking their money. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not about, just taking their money. That's not the purpose anyway.
Absolutely. And what I got from it, and it's something that I grew up seeing, and also from a number of my friends who have gotten divorced, it is kind of feeling from the provider of giving the money for child support even as well, they're not in my care anymore, so I shouldn't have to pay them. And there's this sense of, I don't know if you've gotten this yourself, but this is how I felt being a child of divorce, that well, because I'm paying for you, so now I own a piece of you, so I should get some visitation as part of my right for paying child support. And it's like, since when am I your property? But that's how it felt to me, and I don't know if that's how a lot of children of divorce feel, but it kind of doesn't feel good.
No, it doesn't. It really becomes blood money. So the purpose of alimony was that the purpose of child support is to be able to help pay for the roof over your children's heads, whether they're with you or not with you, to pay for the food that goes on the table, whether they're with you or not with you, the clothes that are on their back, whether they're with you or not with you, their medical attention, whether they're with you or not with you. I mean, you helped create them. Now you have to help take care of them. Just the divorce doesn't make them go away. And I think we forget the purpose of what we're doing because we're so angry. We just get so angry and we get stuck in anger and we get stuck in blame. And that is truly our downfall. And if we don't have, again, I'll say it again, Christina, a professional, emotional guide through this ugly, messy journey of divorce, we will stay stuck and we will hurt our children and we will hurt the people around us.
Yes, I totally agree because I've been a product of some of that hurt, and both my parents, I'm sure, were as well, and many others out there going through it, the children, both parties going through the divorce as well. And your book will be a wonderful resource because, I mean, I've learned a lot of myths that I didn't know about alimony and child support and all of that. And as well as professional support, I think the book in tangent with going to a coach like you or going to a therapist will be instrumental in making this process awesome for everyone. So please, everyone, go to get You Were in Love Once Upon a Time Today. Can they get it on Amazon or on your website? Where's the best place to get it?
The best place right now is on my website. I will hopefully have it on Amazon in the next 60 days. But right now, all you have to do, it's only 2 clicks, people. It's actually easier than Amazon. You go to www.transform-heal.com. And it's right on the home page. You click on the link and it takes you straight through to buy your book or 10.
All your friends.
All your friends who are going through divorce and not behaving well. Because the book does cover a lot. It covers the physical journey of divorce, the emotional journey of divorce, the mental journey of divorce, the spiritual journey of divorce, children of divorce, and then some tips for after. divorce. And it tells my story too, which is hilarious to some people.
Yeah. And you offer really awesome exercises to work through the process as you're going through it. So each section or stage of divorce, you offer exercises that people can use within their life as just another helping guide through the whole process.
Yeah, everyone's divorce is unique and everyone is unique. And so my goal in writing this book was not just to stand up there and proselytize to everyone and preach, but it was to get them thinking and then do exercises that get them to go really deep and get them to look at their life and their children and their ex in a different way and ask some really tough questions. I mean, that's the goal. So it's not a book you sit down and read in an hour. It hopefully will help people get unstuck, move forward, and do divorce in a healthier way.
Absolutely. I'm really, really excited. But before we head on out here, are there any last words or tips you'd like to leave with anyone in the audience who might be going through divorce right now?
Okay, if you're going through divorce, first thing, get off social media.
Really?
No, don't tweet. Get off Facebook. Honestly, it is. Right now, it's huge for divorce attorneys. It's huge fuel for divorce attorneys. Judges hate it. Anything that is on the internet can be found by your children. And if judges find out that you're saying ugly things about your ex or your soon-to-be ex in any kind of a social media situation, you will be slammed by the judges. And believe me, they're looking. The divorce attorneys are haunting your page. I guarantee you they are. And so I say that for a couple of reasons. One, because it's fodder, but two, it's so easy, Christina, because everyone going through divorce is going to go through rage and anger and sadness and bitterness. And it's so easy to just sit down and say that nasty thing on Facebook and hit enter. You know what I mean? So you want to take away as many places that you can that will stop you from doing those impulsive, negative things. So please do not send nasty emails to your spouse. Do not get off Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. So you're not showing your new girlfriend or boyfriend, and you just don't want to be doing any of that stuff. Don't leave nasty voicemails for your spouse. They will be recorded, they will be saved, and they will be used against you. So those are really big. Do not say anything negative in front of your children about your spouse. Huge, really, really huge. It really hurts the kids. Yeah, and hopefully get my book, You Were in Love Once Upon a Time, at www.transform-heal.com. And the other really great resource, if you have children and you're going through divorce for co-parenting, is Ed Farber's book, Raising the Kids You Love with the Ex You Hate. Fabulous, fabulous book. I love them together. I think they're a great 1-2 punch for people.
Yay. I love that about mentioning don't put anything on social media, because the taping, because when I was younger, we didn't have social media like Facebook yet. Mm-hmm. But my dad recorded a not pretty message, which was used against him. So indeed, it really, really is used in court against you. So you don't want to use, even you're pissed, you just pick up the phone, say something in a drunk rage, bad.
Very bad. Yeah. So if you need to turn off your phone for a while, if you're going to go drinking, don't have your phone with you or something. I mean, I don't know what to do.
Leave your smartphone at home. Well, Cindy, it's been awesome having you on today, sharing your wisdom in this very important topic. And I thank you again for coming to Savvy Central Radio.
Oh, it's an honor. I love being here. I wish I could be here more often. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about my book, to talk about divorce. And I do work virtually, so I work with people all across the country. So if you need help, reach out. I'm here. I'd love to help you. It's an honor to serve people who are going through life crisis, especially separation and divorce. So I hope to help some people.
Absolutely. Thank you, Cindy. And everyone, please go get You Were in Love Once Upon a Time today. Get it today at transform-heal.com. Thank you so much, Cindy, for coming to Savvy Central Radio.
Thank you, Christina. Have a great day.
Today, for our Savvy listeners, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you an opportunity to check out their awesome services. Their audiobooks are great for the entrepreneur, small business owner on the run. Get your free audiobook today at www.audibletrial.com/Savvy Central Radio. There's some exciting changes coming this 2015 for Savvy. We'll start videocasting some of our interviews. Also, stay tuned for a new book presently being worked on by my co-author and I, Karen Rowe. We'll talk about how to bridge the gap from worker bee to business owner, and the lessons we've learned on our journey to entrepreneurship. In addition, this spring we'll start live interview opportunities in Manhattan, which will later be aired on iHeartRadio, a new mix to business networking and interviews. For those interested in participating as a paid sponsor or interviewee, contact us at 718-713-2289 or savvycentralradio@gmail.com.